You should be over this relationship by now. Why do you still care about her? Why do you still care about him? I know that many of you out there have been dealing with tumultuous relationships, and you have family and friends who are telling you that you should be over your feelings, you should have moved on a long time ago, and they just don't understand why you just seem to not be able to move on and find someone new and get on with your life. Well, it's easier said than done. I find that many people give advice to others that they will never take on their own. They'll give this amazing advice, and they'll never turn it around on themselves. And if that same advice applied to them, there's no way that that would work. And so in today's video, I want to talk about that because I think that many of us get overwhelmed. We get stressed out because we already have this going on in our life. We're already dealing with these problems in our life. And then on top of that, other people are telling us that we shouldn't be even dealing with this. We should have moved on. There's something wrong with us. And then we start questioning, is there actually something now wrong with me? And that's a lot to handle. You're already handling this, and now you're going to handle this? So how do we begin to kind of unpack this and understand what we're dealing with, and also try not to take this burden upon ourselves, which gets in the way of us healing and moving on? So today we're going to deep dive into this because I find this very interesting. Recently I've had multiple clients tell me that either older brothers or older sisters or an uncle or an aunt or even a mother or father said that they need to get over this relationship, that they should have been over this divorce a long time ago, that this shouldn't be bothering them to this degree. And they begin to internalize this and wonder, is there actually something wrong with me? Am I stuck? Do I need to deal with another facet? Is there something that's making me feel this way and continue to have feelings in this relationship? First off, many people give advice that they would never take on their own. Okay, so it's easy to dispense advice. It's easy to tell somebody what to do when you've never had to go through it. And this is very important to understand because when somebody's gone through a tumultuous relationship, when someone has gone through a long-standing marriage where things did not end well, and there were kids involved and other things involved, and maybe there's even a cut complete ties where you have no communication with your ex-spouse, this is overwhelming. And you have to process this and walk through the feelings, walk through the emotions, see how you feel, take your time, live your life, and begin to find your true self through understanding your identity separate from this person. And that can be very challenging. That's something that I work with my clients on a day-to-day basis doing. However, that in and of itself is, well, it's a hike, it's a journey, and it's a really, really powerful journey to do, but it takes time, it takes effort, motivation, and dedication. The last thing that you want is someone in your camp telling you that there's something wrong with you because you still have feelings for this person or you're still thinking about this person. So think about it. If you've been married to somebody for 5+ years, isn't it normal to think about them? If you've been married for somebody 10+ years, 15 years, 20 years, isn't that normal to still have feelings for somebody? And I want to stress this to everybody out there that's dealing with this and getting this advice from other people. If you're a pretty healthy individual, you're going to have feelings for someone, especially if you've been married for well over 10 years, you're going to still think about them. You're still going to feel for them. You're still going to care about them. You can't just cut off care. You can't just cut off your feelings like that. If you could, that would make you probably not a very healthy individual. Okay? And so I really want you to kind of wrap your brain around that too. If you are still having feelings for your ex-spouse, if you're still having feelings for that person, that's not an abnormal thing. Yes, you might be upset with them. Maybe they did some bad things to you, and so you're having this conundrum of caring for them and loving them at the core, but also really upset with them. That's absolutely normal. An abnormal response would be like cutting complete ties with them, not having any emotion for them, moving on, walking away from it, jumping into another relationship and being done with it. That's abnormal. And I think that's what a lot of people will tell you to do. Just get back in the saddle, get another relationship, go on the dating sites, do something different, put yourself out there. And I'm not against putting yourself out there at all. But I think we have to process this relationship and really ultimately process our feelings of being left, process the feelings of the relationship not working, and also processing just the day-to-day missing of that person that was in your life for so long. I think another interesting aspect that I want to put out there that I think is very important is that many of you are going through life changes. For example, you're going through a divorce or you finalized a divorce, and so that person that was with you all the time is no longer with you. There also might have been children or stepchildren involved in the situation, and maybe those children or stepchildren are not communicating with you as much as they were. You're not seeing them as much as you used to. So now there's a loss there too. So there's multiple losses. And so when you really step back and analyze this, your entire life to some degree has ultimately changed. And in that, we have to really re-understand who we are and create a roadmap for who we are, understanding our values, right? Understanding what we stand for and what we believe in. And a lot of us have changed that over time because we just wanted to get along. We didn't want to rock the boat a lot in the relationship. We also just kind of got complacent with things, and also maybe a little bit of just accepting whatever they did because we just wanted them around, or we were used to acquiescing in the relationship. So really kind of pulling back things and saying, and asking those serious questions, who and what do I stand for? What are those values that I really want in my life? What are the things that I really want to live by? And maybe perhaps being able to understand that better by looking at some of the things that really hurt you in this last relationship, maybe looking at things that you feel were boundary breaks in that relationship and really discovering those values. And that's something that I work with clients as well in. But again, the last thing that we need is somebody telling us that we should have already moved on. And I do think there is a bit of a time constraint as far as you don't want to still be pining and ultimately in love with your ex years and years later after the situation. I do think that emotions begin to wane, and we also begin to see maybe the actions of that person and start putting ourselves first as far as looking at our own value and looking what's important to us. But I think that in the process of going through this, we have to give ourselves grace. And so when you hear this type of advice from someone that's close to you, it's okay to listen to the advice. You don't have to get angry about it. It's probably better not to get angry about it because you're just going to start an argument. Hey, I appreciate your advice. I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm working on myself. I'm doing a lot of work right now. I've gone through a lot of change. If you don't realize, I've gone through ultimate changes in my life that have completely changed my life from what it looked like a year ago. And I'm working on that. And I'm working with somebody right now to really work through that, to work through and process my emotions. And I appreciate your comment, but also I know that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm allowed to have feelings. I'm allowed to have care for people that live with me for X amount of time. I'm allowed to have care and think about people that I've taken care of for years of my life. And, it's also interesting, too, to look at where the advice is coming from. Remember, when we get advice from people that are close to us, they kind of have a stake in it. Right? What happens to you directly relates to them, and it impacts them. And that's something that's really important to understand. And that's why you want to work with a coach or therapist when you're dealing with this type of stuff, is because that person can be objective. That person can give you the right advice because it doesn't impact them. And so if your brother's giving you this advice or your mother's giving you this advice, it's impacting them, and that's not fair. It's also creating this judgment. It's almost like you fear, okay, maybe they are right, and if they are right, what really is wrong with me? And now we're not processing the emotions from the past relationship. Now we've internalized this, and now we're looking for whatever's wrong with us. That begins to occupy our brain. And that's something that if you really are a truly somewhat healthy individual that actually cares and loves people, and you had basically the carpet pulled out from underneath your feet, that's not fair. And so you don't have to get into a quarrel or argument, but ultimately understand and then look at what their life is. I've realized a lot when I get advice from people, especially unsolicited advice, and I think a lot of times this is very unsolicited advice. And when I've gotten unsolicited advice from people, it's very interesting to kind of look, and it's not about judgment. It's about looking at where their life is now, looking at some of the things that they're dealing with, maybe some of the things that they're not self-aware of, maybe some of the shortcomings and the problems in their own life. Also, maybe look at some of the things that they've never experienced. If they've never experienced the situation you're going through, how can they even give any advice? That's really impossible. It's not possible to give advice. The same example applies. I think that somebody that's going through addiction needs to talk to an addiction specialist, or somebody that was addicted and has been sober for 10 plus years of that addiction. Because that person gets the person that's been addicted. They understand the addiction, they've been through the addiction, they've hit rock bottom, they've gotten through it, they've sobered themselves up, and they've been completely sober for 10 plus years and been able to do it on their own. That is somebody that I would listen to if I had an addiction. Much like if somebody has gone through this process, I would maybe listen to them if they're really healthy and have gotten through the other side through their struggle but been successful. Or somebody that works with that on a daily basis and understands exactly how to create success, how to find your individual identity, and how to move forward. So again, one of the big reasons I created this video today is because I've had so many clients begin to question themselves and break down because they just don't know what is wrong with me, and they're worried. But you know what? Ultimately, a lot of times there's nothing wrong. It's just that we got to work through the stuff that we need to work through, and then you can find yourself and your identity more solid. You can appreciate the unsolicited advice, but at the same time, try not to take that to heart, because I think when we're going through lots of change in our life, we begin to question ourselves, and we don't need to question ourselves any more than we already are. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And in the comments section, let me know, have you dealt recently with unsolicited advice, and how did it impact you? Sometimes it comes from our best friends, our family, our brothers and sisters, and a lot of times it comes when you least expect it. Also, there's an option to join this channel for members-only content, and if you get a chance, you can click on that join button. You can find out what that entails. In the meantime, we appreciate you watching the video. I hope it's connected with you. If it doesn't directly connect with you, please share it with your family or friends who may be dealing with a situation like this and needs to hear these words right now. Don't forget to live your true life.